This video is for users who have purchased a Simplify3D license and want to use it with their MakerGear M3 printer. Before we get started, we are assuming that you have already set up and printed from your MakerGear M3 printer. So all of that is handled from the Begin Quick Check button, and if you haven't already run through that process, please do before you go any further using Simplify3D. In this workflow, we're going to take our model into Simplify3D. We're going to then prepare, slice, and preview it, and export a G-code file. We can take this G-code file into OctoPrint and then print it to our M3 3D printer. So Simplify3D can take STL or OBJ files. So where do we get some of these? If we're using CAD software, anything from Tinkercad and Fusion 360 all the way to Inventor and SolidWorks, you should be able to get out or export an STL or OBJ file. So in this case, I've got this little cube. I can just click Export, and I see this STL option. There are also websites like Thingiverse and GrabCAD out there that have a lot of different models for you to freely download. So on this page, you've got to find the STL file and download it. Or you can download all files and you'll get a zip file here. So if we take a look in our downloads, in this hollow calibration cube file, here's an STL file. This cool LZing is that file that I downloaded from Tinkercad. And if you want, you can even go to the OctoPrint interface where we've included several STL files. So we've got that MakerGear keychain STL that you first printed, and we've also got in demos STL a variety of different STLs. You can just click on this download icon next to any of them to download that STL file. Simplify3D is a really powerful slicing tool. Now in this example, we're going to gloss over a lot of the features for Simplify3D and just get up and running. But Simplify3D has a lot of great documentation on making the most of all the features. If you've never set up Simplify3D before, you will want to go to Help, Configuration Assistant, and from here make sure you've selected your printer. Now in this case, you're going to see the MakerGear M2 24V V4 hot end. So even though this says M2, this will work just fine with your M3 printer. Eventually you should see an M3 in this list, but for now this one will do just fine. Go next and finish, and if you didn't before, you should see the platform that corresponds to our bed and this bounding box. Now we can go ahead and click Import. I'm going to go to my downloads. You can see I've downloaded a whole lot of different STL files. I downloaded this MG keychain from my MakerGear OctoPrint interface, and I'm going to go ahead and print that just so we get something nice and quick to print. We recommend using a mouse with a scroll wheel when you're using Simplify3D. This will make things a whole lot easier to work with. So if we do a left click, we can orbit around our scene. A right click will allow us to pan, and our scroll wheel will zoom. So by mixing pan, zoom, and orbit, we can get a better view of our model. All you have to do is press your scroll wheel button and you'll go back to your original view. Now if we double click on our model, we'll get this panel that has position, scaling, and rotation. Here we can move our X position incrementally or just type in the value we want. We can do that for our X, our Y, and our Z. Now if you do bring the Z up and it's floating off the table, that's a bad thing. You don't want to have to either generate supports or just start printing in the middle of the air. So you can always go to Edit, Drop Model to Table, or Command T, and this will drop the model back to its zero position right above the table. Here for our scaling, we can either set the actual value we want, so say 25, 5, even something really big, or set our scale % modifier. We can also uncheck uniform scaling if we want to scale just in one direction. So this is obviously going to make it really long or really tall. In this case, I want to set it to 125 to make it just a little bit bigger. Finally, we have XYZ rotation. So we'll start at Z, and we've got this handy XYZ marking here. So with Z, we're going to rotate around the Z axis. So if I type in 90, we'll get 90 degree turn that way, 45, or incrementally just moving it. The Y is going to rotate around this Y axis. So we'll try 90 on there. And you can see it moving slowly. Again, we can drop to table to drop our model back to table to see where it would be. We can also rotate along X, so 45 degrees, 90 degrees, somewhere in between, and drop it to table again. Now this isn't going to print very well, so I'm going to go ahead and reset rotation. And if you ever reset or do anything with rotation and you can't see your model, again, drop to table is your friend. So for this model, I'm pretty happy with all of my settings here. So if up here are my models, down here are my processes, and the processes are what turn the model into G-code. So I'm going to double check this process. I should have this MakerGear M2 24V V4 hot end in my profile. I want to stick with PLA. I can go ahead and leave this at medium. The infill at 20%. The infill is going to be how much plastic is inside of your print. So basically it's going to have different layers and combinations of grids or triangles to make sort of a hollow object to save you on plastic. 20% is perfect for this. And this does not need a raft or support. Your interface might look like this if you've clicked that Show Advanced, and like I said, these are where there's a lot of the different options in Simplify3D. We're not going to need to worry too much about them right now, but all of these options should work perfectly for your stock M3 with a 0.35 nozzle out of the box. So we'll hide Advanced. We're also going to click Select Models to just make sure that we've got our model selected. Once we start dealing with a lot of different models, you want to make sure that you're managing your models correctly so that you're not accidentally mixing models or using a profile on the wrong model, a model you didn't intend to. So now I can click OK. Now I just need to click Prepare Print. And we've got Preview Mode. In preview mode, you'll notice the model looks different, and that's because we're not seeing the actual model, but we're seeing the tool paths that the printer is going to take to make the model. So as I move this, you can see this is a simulated version of where the printer is going to move in order to make the model. I can also click Layer here to see how each layer gets built up. So this is where the idea of slicing comes from. We take the model and slice it into individual layers that the printer can easily understand and then recreate. So once I've got my G-code here, all I need to do is save toolpaths to disk. I've created a G-code folder. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as MG keychain and save it. And if I take a look at my file system, I should see mgkeychain.gcode. Now I can go back into my OctoPrint interface. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder just to put this G-code in, help keep things a little bit cleaner. I'll click on printer to open that folder. It's empty right now. I'm going to click upload, navigate to my mgkeychain.gcode, and go ahead and upload it. By default, the file will be put into the state navbar here. If it's not, you can always click this folder to bring it in. If you want, you can check out OctoPrint's G-code viewer. It's not quite as nice as Simplify3D's, but it can give you another verification that everything is ready. So here we can see different layers as well as different individual movements. Before I actually click print, I'm going to check to make sure that my filament is actually loaded. Make sure that the bed is clear and clean, and make sure that there's nothing that the printer is going to bump into. Once I'm ready to print, just go ahead and click print. I'll hear that little song from the printer. If I go over to temperature, I should see my bed temperature goal set high, and my bed's going to start rising to that temperature. Eventually my extruder will also start heating up as soon as my bed gets to its ready temperature. And once everything's done there, it's going to home the printer and then start printing. So once everything's cooled off, we can get our part off the bed. And there's our keychain. Like I said before, Simplify3D is a really great piece of slicing software with a lot of features. But no matter what you do in Simplify3D, you're always going to use this Save Toolpath to Disk to save your G-code out and then bring it into OctoPrint. One of the really great things about OctoPrint is that once this process is started, I can close my window, leave, do whatever else I need to do, come back at any time, go ahead and put in my URL again, and check on its progress. So I don't need to worry about having my computer directly connected or directly monitoring the print at all times.